Okay, I'm just conscious of time, so if we just start with introductions. So hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar on inquiry in the PYP classroom. My name's Nat Turner and I am the Senior Marketing Manager here at Capstone. We're a leading educational publisher of K-5 digital solutions, children's books and literacy programmes for school libraries, classrooms and at-home reading. We're also the home of the award-winning Pebble Go curriculum connected learning tool, and we have a passion for inspiring students to learn by making inquiring engaging, accessible, and most importantly, fun, which is what we're hoping to do for today's webinar. So before we crack on, just a couple of housekeeping bits. You're free to ask us anything in the chat at any time. We'll try and answer them live, but if not, we'll be having a dedicated session at the end of the session so that you can ask us anything specifically that you want to know. And then also this webinar is being recorded and a copy of it will be emailed to you once the session has completed. So without further ado, I'm going to just introduce you quickly to our webinar host, Pilar. She's an educator with 19 years of experience working in international and PYP schools in Mexico City, has a really strong background in inquiry-based teaching and learning. She's passionate about empowering students and educators so that they can grow and develop, and know that she's excited to connect with you all today. So I'll pass you over to her.
Thank you, Nat. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I'm really excited about sharing this conversation with you and with Marina. And I'm very honored to have you as an audience. I'm always very honored whenever I get to have a chat with teachers. So I really hope that today's session is nurturing to you, that it gives you motivation to keep to keep designing engaging learning experiences for your students. So yeah, like I have been working in education for the past 19 years, mainly in early years. But I guess inquiry is a general concept that can be adapted to the grade that you teach or to the subject that you teach, no? Can we move to the next one, please, Nat? So I'm going to talk a little bit about today's journey. First, we're going to explore the essence of inquiry-based learning through questioning. We're going to talk about the importance of questioning and teaching our students to generate good questions, and us as teachers, also the importance of us creating better questions in our learning experiences. And then Nat is going to show us a quick Pebble Go digital demo. And then finally, we're going to talk about the IB mission and how it is interconnected to the importance of teaching and developing a critical thinking mindset in our students. Here you have a QR code where you can have access to some resources that I think are very helpful for you if you want to dive deeper in this topic. You can have access to this by scanning this QR code, okay? So now let's go straight into a poll that we have here ready for you. And we're gonna look at types of questions. So do we do it via Zoom? Okay, here you go. So which of the following is an example of a good inquiry question? So go ahead and choose the one that is more of an example of a good inquiry question. Can we see the results here? You're muted, Nat.
Sorry.
It's okay.
The highest poll was, how does climate change affect biodiversity, Pilar?
Of course, obviously, because the first, the third, and the fourth questions are more about looking for an answer, no, for a closed answer. And the second one, it's not so much about having a concrete answer, but about a journey. We're more interested in this journey, in this investigation, than in actual answers. The next one, please, Matt. Next slide. So yeah, we're looking at inquiry as a journey of exploration, not a destination, right? So I really like how these visuals represent graphically the path that we go through when we are looking for a closed answer by asking closed questions. It is cleaner, right? The purple one shows like a cleaner visual, whereas if we look at the one at the left that says open-ended questions, it is less clean, less organized, right? So I know that these sometimes can be scary for us as teachers because we want to be in control of the situation. But whenever we want to promote inquiry in our lessons, we have to get used to uncertainty and to be open to create this culture of uncertainty and inquiry in our classrooms, right? We want to foster inquiry by designing open-ended, provoking questions versus closed questions where they're just fact-based, right? So another example of a question, for example, very close would be, what is the definition of neurodiversity? Versus something like, how might we redesign our school to be more inclusive of neurodiverse students? So here we have a chart that I really liked, where if you look at the words that you can ask, you can see which words lead you to questions that are higher in quality in terms of inquiry, because we don't want our students to just acquire volume of information, but we want them to question and discern and look for different paths to create new knowledge, right? And this has to do with the mission of the IB that we're going to talk about later on, to create new perspectives and not just reproduce information, but to create a new world, right? And this is why teaching our students how to make better questions is very important, and we can do this through collaboration as well. They can have like a peer work where together they can choose questions and then maybe transform them into deeper questions. They can have this metacognition, awareness and understanding of their own thought process through this building of questions. And the next slide, please, Matt. So yeah, we want to promote inquiry, as I said, as a journey of exploration, not necessarily a destination. So if we look at Bloom's taxonomy and the levels of thinking, the higher up in the pyramid, the deeper the question is going to be, right? Because we're talking more about creating different perspectives, different paths, compared to just remembering something, no? Like to recall information or to say something by memory. We want our students to change the things as they are right now to create a better world, no? As I said before. Next slide, please. So we want to create, as I said, a culture in our classroom where inquiry is more like a way of being and a mindset and not such a methodology to follow. So curiosity is actually a natural state in humans that needs to be nurtured. It's not something that we need to teach or a skill, but it needs to be nurtured. And every question is valuable. And as I was saying, it is not easy to embrace uncertainty because it sometimes can be chaotic and it can be overwhelming as teachers. But instead of seeing uncertainty as a weakness, we should see it as an opportunity for discovering new things, no? For questioning over answering. So curiosity is going to be the driving force as the default mode in our classrooms. And the quality of the questions is going to be more important than the immediate answers from our students. This obviously is going to provide our students with a sense of agency, and they're going to be active knowledge constructors, no? Because we're going to let them question over answering. And whenever the answer is not the objective, I think students immediately can relax and have access to a more interesting learning process. So learning can be a dynamic collaborative process and like an adventure, no, like an exploration. And this way, knowledge then is not static, but is constantly evolving, and learners then become active and not just passive receivers. So yeah, I want to mention this again. Embracing complexity and ambiguity is going to be key for us to build a more interesting learning environment in our classroom. So now in the next slide, I have a few examples of questions, and I'm going to give you a few minutes for you to order them depending on their quality level. So go ahead, and if you have somewhere to write, or if you want to write it on the chat, read the questions and try to think and compare them to what we saw in Bloom's taxonomy and the levels of thinking. Or think about the words that we can use. For example, sometimes instead of saying who is, which is gonna very surely give us just a fact, or if we say how might, or why would this be this way and not that way? So using those combinations of words can give us clues of how well designed our questions are. So I don't know if we are looking at, yes, there they are. So let me go to the chat. And go ahead and try to order them by numbers, just from the least inquiry-based, or the ones who are most like factual, to the one which you think is more, that goes more into journey than just an answer. And as teachers, it is very important that whatever we want to teach in our classrooms, we sort of practice it ourselves, like in our own way of learning, in our own life, so that it's more organic. Because sometimes these topics can feel very abstract. They do feel abstract to me, and I know how complex the IB is sometimes with conceptual learning and the big questions like the transdisciplinary themes. Okay, sorry. It says that the chat is closed, that no answer, no access. Oh, I'm very sorry.
1 second, let me have a look.
Thank you. It's okay. If we cannot access the chat, you can always just look at them and write them down if you have a notebook. I always have a notebook next to me. So yeah, what I was telling you is that I always think that whatever we want to create in our classrooms, we have to incarnate it as teachers, right? So I was saying, this inquiry-based teaching should be like a mindset. So if the teacher, okay, thank you, Nat. So Nat says that the chat should now be open. If the teacher herself or himself practices an inquiry, no, thank you, William, an inquiry-based way of living, then you can create a culture in your classroom. It is important to create this culture, because since we're not looking necessarily for right answers and we're promoting the journey, it's gonna be important that we celebrate risk-taking, no? Like the IB profile attributes. We want our students to be risk takers and know that they might not find the correct answer, but the journey and the adventure is what matters. So it is very important for us teachers to learn how to create a good level of questions, of inquiry questions in our different units of inquiry, and at the same time teaching our students to do so. Do you have access now?
Yeah, they should do. Sorry, everyone. So how
So
would
we,
you questions then, Pila?
sorry, Nat, can you repeat that?
Questions, if you had to pick the top 3 questions depending on their quality level, how would you place them?
The top 3?
Yeah.
Well, I actually have my answer in the next slide. So obviously the most profound question is the one that says, well, not obviously, but how could understanding this topic help make the world a better place? Because it is linking learning to a broader social impact, which in the IB methodology is like the top outcome that we want from our students. We want our students to have we want action. That's what we're always looking for. At the end of our units of inquiry, we as teachers always have to reflect about which actions our students actually took after going through all the journey, right? So to me, as you can see, that one is the most profound because it encourages them to become empathetic, which is also related to the IB mission and the IB learner profile. Of course, what is your favorite color? I mean, it's not a bad question because students can feel also comfortable participating with these simple surface level questions, because also like having deep questions all the time can be so tiring, right? So it's not that it's a bad question, but if you want students to really discover new things and really show action, we want to try and design questions that are more like this. Like, how could understanding this topic help the world? What connections, like relationships between things, like all this transdisciplinarity that we want to promote between two things that seem completely different. How might you solve a problem differently if you had unlimited resources? Like, we want to also somehow, with our questions, to drag our students and to take them out of their own reality, to experience other perspectives, to be able to then develop this critical thinking. Does this make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, obviously this description is more about, it's a lower level of thinking in the thinking level pyramid that we were looking at, for example, no? What is something new? It's very factual. And this one is a bit deeper, no? Like, what would you like to know more about? Although it's quite broad. So sometimes you can, if you ask this type of questions, it happens to me in practice. And I'm sure that if some of the attendees here are teachers with an active teaching practice, I immediately identify when a question was not very well designed by me whenever I don't get like answers from my students, and I'm like, oh, because they're like maybe too open. No, depends on the age level as well. So we have, it's like a, yeah, scaffolding thing that we need to do with our students. So, okay, here we have some answers, 3, 6, 7. 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How might you solve a problem? Yeah, that's a very good one. 4, 6. It's funny how 3 was not seen as such a bad question, right? And description doesn't go too deep in if we want to create a more complex way of thinking in our students. Because I was also, when I was preparing the webinar, it was super interesting that I've been really into neuroscience and all of those things, and how, yeah, okay, that's a good point, William. 3 can be one of those questions that can help us start the conversation at a surface level to then dive deeper, no, into more yeah, deeper questions. Thank you for your participation. I really appreciate it. So I was saying that when I was preparing the webinar, I was super, and I think I'm going to keep learning about it, how it is not just a learning methodology to promote inquiry-based learn like teaching, but it can also actually change the actual shape of the brain of people. Like whenever you are training your brain or your, yeah, like your mindset to respond from an inquiry place, it actually creates new pathways, neurologically speaking, and it helps you like see different perspectives. And then what happens if you see different perspectives? You become a good problem solver, for example. No, you can think outside of the box, which is what we want in international and IB schools, right?
Absolutely. That's a really interesting point.
Very interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna keep reading about this definitely. So Nat, can you please show the next slide? Thank you so much. So this was just a quick, because I wanted to do breakout rooms and everything, but I know that we have a short time. So this was a bit more interactive. Thank you for your participation. And now let's talk about PebbleGo and by Capstone and how as teachers, these type of platforms are very useful for us because in the inquiry cycle, we always have to think about resources that can trigger curiosity and that can work as connectors of, for example, previous knowledge in our students, and then boom, we go and we can just start dragging all the knowledge that our students have and engaging them with whatever our units or transdisciplinary themes are in the unit that we're working. So PebbleGo has very well designed online, it's an online library, but it also has printed books that are very good to as catalysts for questions. No, they can storytelling. I always like, is one of my preferred methods to start my units of inquiry with a story, with a book, because it does like, I mean, just by looking at the pictures and also the relational moment of being read too, it's also very, I don't know, I think it's a very primitive thing. Like when someone reads to you, there's something that just clicks. So students very quickly engage whenever they are read to. And if it has, like very colorful pictures, which is what I saw in the PebbleGo materials, I mean, we're on the other side, right? It's already a curated platform with resources that have already been revisited, that are age appropriate, that are with a good quality of research, no? That then helps us teachers to relax and just invest our time in our planning, in our designing of these questions that we've been talking, in planning good scaffolding for our students, differentiating and everything else that we have to do. They also foster collaboration and they can inquire deeply into any topic, because what I saw, Nat, is that the way the platform is designed is very intuitive and very I really liked how it is like even multisensory, like with all the sounds that it has, and very visually is very friendly for example, students who still struggle in literacy or who maybe have a neurodivergent brain. So they need these like separation in the word. So it's really lovely. So as teachers, we always appreciate to have something to grab onto and to just launch our units of inquiry and to ensure this engagement in our students, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how it's been designed, really, is to really be an aid for teachers and emerging and beginner readers, especially at that K-2 age.
Lovely. Yeah, because sometimes it is amazing the amount of time that we as teachers invest in just looking for the resources. And our time is very limited, and the planning in an IB context it's very demanding. Like it needs a very how can I say, like crafty way of crafting the lessons. So it's not easy. So we need our time for our planning. So I think having these type of platforms is very helpful for our students, for us teachers to use. We can go to the next slide now. I think it's your turn now.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've pretty much hit the nail on the head, really, to be honest, Pila. So Capstone and Pebble Go specifically have been developed to inspire curiosity in students. So we know that kids want to ask questions and they want to interrogate and find the answers themselves. So our range of digital tools, which is Pebble Go Next, and Capstone Interactive, and also our print books, have been created by literacy experts and allow kids to do that in a safe environment. And I think that's one of the key things, is that in the big world of, you know, Google and massive search engines where kids can access anything, having a safe place for them to really engage that curiosity is key. Absolutely. So I'm just going to click this and then we'll go through a quick digital demo.
Yes, please. I really enjoyed going through it, so I think the attendees are gonna like it too.
Can I just confirm that you can see that screen quickly?
Yes, we can. It says Pebble Go Next, and Capstone, no?
Perfect. So yeah, so this is the Pebble Go Suite dashboard. So Pebble Go and Pebble Go Next are age-appropriate research tools, with thousands of non-fiction articles for K to do at Pebble Go stage, and then 3 to 5 at Pebble Go Next, as well as Capstone ebooks, which include thousands of fiction and non-fiction titles. So all of our digital products are safe online environments, which was just talked about, with one login per school, so kids can research and explore a wide range of topics as much as they want. So long as they've got an internet connection, they can access it wherever they are. So if I just click into Pebble Go,
Animals.
So that's the audio function. So each of these modules has
Animals.
audio,
Biographies. Health.
so that kids know what they're
Animals.
reading. I'm going to turn that off.
Biographies.
It's a bit annoying after a while. So yeah, as you can see, it's a really bright and bold interface, and it features an age-appropriate design with bold colours and a simple iconography for easy identification of the 5 different modules, which is animals, biography, health, science, and social studies. And then students can also toggle between English and Spanish if they go up into the right-hand corner here. So when we were looking at the questions for inquiry-based learning, one of them really stuck out to me, which was, what would you like to know more about in science or nature? And I thought that would actually be a really good one for us to go through together as a group. So one story that I've been really interested in the past week has been the 2 NASA astronauts that have returned to Earth after being stuck in space for 9 months. And I know that kids just love space and anything to do with it. And when I was a kid, that would be one of the things I was in the library looking for. So if I was an early years researcher, so in K to 2, then I would be looking at Pebble Go, which we've got up here, and I'd be wanting to find out more information about astronauts. So I would be going to science. I would be thinking which of these images might work. So I'd probably go Earth and space science. That's got a picture of stars, so it's got to be space. And then exploring space, and then astronauts down here. So then a student would be coming through to the article, and then as you can see, this really encourages students to do student-driven learning, as it's really structured. So once students navigate to an article such as this one, they can start learning more, and each article really promotes learner agency, as students need to independently explore the information which is laid out before them. So they can read the text independently, or they can play the audio back with text highlighting, which helps those emergent or beginning readers that we were just talking about. So
Astronauts are people trained to work in space.
That's an example of that. And then also within each article are these words which are highlighted in bold. So if they click on those, they'll get a glossary definition. And again, they can play that.
Commander. An astronaut who is in charge of a space mission.
That just means that if a kid's reading this article, and they might not know what that word means, they can independently look that up, and that will aid their comprehension. I mean, and if they still got questions, they can go to the teacher, but it's just giving them that agency so that they can be as independent as possible in the classroom. As well as that, they've got the ability to interact with different forms of media. So as they scroll through the different tabs, they can click on the images to expand them, or they can look at videos that are attached to each of the different articles. And this one's just an astronaut at the space station, which is really cool. It's my favorite bit. And then as well as that, they can learn how to start citing those sources, because obviously young researchers, they need to be able to start doing that. And it really embeds that knowledge into them as they go through their academic career. And then as well as that, we were talking also about really helping teachers and creating those scaffolds within the classroom. And one thing that's great about Pebble Go Next as well, is that they've got the articles and the activities for each of them. So if you wanted to take it offline, you could print the article, or you could print the page and then use that in the classroom or alongside the online version. And then also for the activity as well, you can print these to extend the learning with engaging classroom activities as well. And then I know that, Pila, you're going to talk more about critical thinking later on in the presentation, and all of the activities have questions like these that just really start to get kids thinking a bit more and developing a bit more ideas around what might be happening in different environments. So this one specifically is like looking at what people eat in space, which is always quite fun. As well as that, and which isn't on the science articles, are timelines, and I just wanted to quickly touch upon that. So if I were to look at a famous astronaut, for example, and maybe I've just read it on this article, or I found it in a book in the library, and I want to know more about Neil Armstrong, for example, again, we've got the citation, the article, the activity, and the video, but in the biography section, we've also got the timeline. So this then just breaks it down so that kids can see what are key points within each part, so that they can then start bringing that into their research as well. And that's really great for if they're doing like exhibitions in the school and they just need something that they can quickly take away and pop in. So that would be for Pebble Go. But then if I was an older student, I would be looking more for Pebble Go Next. So I could either navigate up here, or I could go back to the home bar, which is what I'm just going to do out of habit, and then go to Pebble Go Next, which is for grades 3 to 5. As you can see, it's the same kind of format as Pebble Go. You've got the iconography, you've got the modules, there's still the sound functionality, and we're going to be bringing in Pebble Go Next Spanish as well in the next couple of weeks. If I wanted to look again at space, I would follow the same sort of structure, so science, probably earth science. Again, I can use the iconography, or I can read, so probably planets in the solar system, and then stars in the solar system, and then probably space exploration. And then from the offset, you can see that it's a lot more advanced content, and encouraging that deeper inquiry. So you've still got the audio and text highlighting.
The universe is bigger than we can imagine.
But one of the bonuses of Pebble Go is that every word has a definition. So if a child is at that stage where they're looking to explore more, their curiosity really is piqued and they're looking to go into deeper information, but they might not have that comprehension, they can go through and they can have a real go at looking to understand this on their own. So they can click on any of these words and it will bring back a definition for them. Again, you've got the tabs and the ability to go through all of the different bits of media to sort of extend that learning and to get a bit more understanding through different forms. And then again, the citations, but outside of APA, you've got MLA and CMS as well, depending on which your school prefers to use. So again, you're really embedding those research skills from the offset. And then outside of that, you've got Capstone Interactive and our print books as well. So we're a print publisher, first and foremost. That's what we initially started to do. So we've got hundreds of books, thousands of books that Marina would be more than happy to take you through. And we've actually got a PYP brochure where we have aligned all of our titles, like quite a lot of our titles, to the different transdisciplinary themes. So that will be in the resource pack that I'll share with you later. But as well as the print books, we've also got the ebooks. So in our Pebble Go suite at the top here, or again on the homepage, you can go to the Capstone Interactive ebooks. And let's say I was a student and I'm still looking at astronauts and I'm really, really keen to know as much as I want to. I can go up here in the search function. I can search astronaut, which I can't spell by the looks of it. And it'll bring back all the titles that we've got, and that's across fiction and non-fiction. So whether you're looking down the non-fiction route into facts, then you can look at the non-fiction, and that's great. But then we've also got the fiction like Yasmin the astronaut, so that, you know, if you really are interested in that subject and you just want to absolutely dive headfirst into it, then you've got that reading for pleasure aspect as well that you can sort of jump into. And then if I just quickly click into a book, you can see that you've got a bit of information about the book, the cover, what else is in the series. You can click to open it. And then again, you've got audio and print. Oh, I'll maybe not play the front.
Who are astronauts? The first astronauts launched into space in 1961.
And again, you can read that without the audio if you just want to do it as a simple ebook, or then you can play the audio if you want it to be a bit more advanced. And then you can click through. And that is pretty much it in terms of the digital product. So yeah, using a mixture really of digital and print resources really does strengthen those research and literary skills and supports the inquiry cycles that Pilar's going to be looking at now, I guess. So
Thank you, Nat. This is amazing. I thought about a million things while you were showing us this.
good.
I really like this agency aspect of the platform and how friendly it is for students to move through it in a safe way, as you were saying, because we need to teach them we need to teach our students about digital literacy. They do have to learn it, whether we like it or not. They have to be taught, about digital literacy. And I love how safe it is for them to just move and go deeply into any topic that they're interested in independently.
All of our articles as well, they're all fact checked and they're updated regularly, and we get new articles usually twice a year as well. So it is constantly evolving, constantly reflecting what's happening on in the world.
That's amazing.
Just to make sure that we really do want to have a platform that shows how the world works as well. So it really does lend itself really well to the IB.
It's lovely. And especially if, for example, me as a teacher who is used to work in learning centers, to then be able to do, scaffolding, differentiation, and attend my individual students' needs, or at least a group of kids who share a need. I do work in learning centers. So I was thinking how amazing this is, because then they can be in one center independently working and investigating, while I can then be working with another group of students, in filling in some gaps that they need to do with a bit more of guidance. So I think that also for working in learning centers, this is amazing because it's very friendly for them to navigate independently.
And we've got loads of like free educational resources as well. It's not something that I actually went into. I might just quickly do it just because you've brought it up. So if you look down at the bottom, I mean, kids can click on this, but it's so hidden that very, very rarely does it happen, but it's great for teachers. We've got all of these resources that teachers can sort of explore, training, updates, you want it, it's there. It's literally a one-stop shop for everything that you need to get started and to just take that pressure off as well, because teachers are so busy. Sometimes you just need a little bit of extra help just to get those lessons under wraps. So yeah, it's a really great resource.
Definitely. Thank you, Nat. So I'm glad that they're having a free, well, they were asking if they were having this a trial, so, but
Yeah.
that's at the end. Okay. Yeah, so as you were saying, we have been talking about the cycle of inquiry, and that's why in this webinar, we're talking about guided inquiry. It's not that everything is going to be chaotic and everybody's going to be doing whatever they want. Like, we do have our units of inquiry, we have our lines of inquiry, we have the transdisciplinary theme, we have the concepts that we want to cover. So really, these Pebble Go resources can be used at any stage in the cycle of inquiry. Like you can use them as a provocation, no, like to trigger their curiosity about the topic that you're gonna be covering. And as I said, to then have all this previous knowledge, but you can also use it as an actual investigation tool, like for them to go and find out and acquire all this new knowledge that they're gonna then turn into action, which is what we want, right? So this is the cycle. And that's why the questions that aim more towards motivating our students to act and to create and to assess and evaluate are going to be much helpful in terms of inquiry, no? So we do have our curriculum. So within that curriculum, we can guide our students to then become independent, to have agency, no? And as a teacher, I'm sometimes scared of giving them the freedom because we're control freaks. And since we don't have much time, I mean, we have to cover the curriculum and we have to grade and we have to do this and that. So sometimes it's not easy to let go in the inquiry culture that I was talking, but whenever I let myself do it, I think I find the most satisfying units. Like it is very, very, very fulfilling to just follow your students' passions and your students' questions and just design learning experiences based on that from all of these materials that they get involved with. So I really get passionate about it. And I really like the articles that you were mentioning because it can be like a daily routine activity, you know, like the question of the day. So we can read an article and then from that, we can then develop a question. So if we can go to the next slide, I think I'm talk more about that there. Exactly. So we want sources to trigger their curiosity. It can be photographs, film clips, stories, quotations to keep them engaged. And obviously our kids right now are very motivated by technology. And as we were discussing before, it gives them a sense of agency in their own learning process and a collaboration. No, what I have observed is that whenever you have a source that triggers curiosity and that can trigger conversation. I mean, conversation is also very important in the inquiry culture that I'm talking about, because sometimes I might have my idea in a very abstract level in my head, but maybe one of my peers is more vocal or oral. And whenever they explain it, it clicks something in me and it helps me to have access to that knowledge that is already there, but I needed just a little push. So that's why having these articles, these books, no, even the printed pages or the printed articles can give a completely different experience and promote conversation, and therefore provide more connections, and students can really, even it happens to me, I don't know if it has happened to you, like you hear somebody wording something that you had already sort of understood, but somehow it yet needed a little bit more. So that's why this collaboration element is so crucial in a context of an IB learning context, no?
Absolutely.
And so I really wanted, I don't know why, when you and I discussed the topic of the webinar, and I thought, okay, so the attendees are going to be probably PYP coordinators who obviously know about the transdisciplinary themes, and I'm not going to teach you about that, or units of inquiry, or lines of inquiry, or skills for learning, or all of that. So I wanted to somehow turn this into a more philosophical conversation and just go back to the basics of the IB. Whenever I feel lost in the IB, because it can be very conceptual and abstract sometimes and hard to just bring down, I go back to the mission and I read it again and again. And I've been working in an IB environment for 19 years. I've never worked in a school that's not an IB school. And I still have to go back to this mission again and again. And every time I read it, it lands differently. So I'm just going to read it aloud. And I just want us to take 1 minute to just reflect about it and how this is intrinsically connected with inquiry and with a critical thinking. So the International Baccalaureate aims to develop inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who help to create a better and more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. To this end, the organization works with schools, governments, and international organizations to develop challenging programs of international education and rigorous assessment. These programs encourage students across the world to become active, compassionate, and lifelong learners who understand that other people with their differences can also be right. Wow. I think this is so beautiful. So, yeah, how can we do this without inquiry? No? Or without critical thinking? As we mentioned before, we don't want our students to reproduce the world that we're already living in. We want them to design a better one, no? So I know that we're running out of time. I don't know how much time we have left, so maybe we can very quickly go through the following slides.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you can see, within those lines, critical thinking is just like the way, right? Because we wanna, there was this word challenge. We want our students to challenge the existing assumptions. We want them to seek multiple perspectives and investigate beyond surface level information. We want them to create a better world, to understand this international mindset, this international intercultural way of seeing the world, and therefore to become more compassionate, no? And more concerned about how they can be of benefit in this planet. And I really like this part where it says lifelong learners, because we as teachers should not present ourselves as how do you say, I lost the word, as the ones who have all the knowledge. We are also learning with them and we are growing with them. So I think it's more important to model a curious attitude and a passionate attitude than I know everything attitude as a teacher. No? And obviously this is a bit long, but our role is to facilitate, no, and to provide these scaffolding experiences to fill in the gaps where we see our students struggling so that they can reach the next level by providing guided support, nurturing their agency and their independence. And how, no? Because this sounds very romantic and we always need the how, no? So in the resources, I sort of prepared a few things that I hope that can be helpful for you to have this in a more concrete level and not such a romantic abstract level. I tend to be very romantic, but provocative questions, as we said. Design open-ended questions that challenge existing thinking, that is gonna invite them to change perspectives, to, for example, think about hypotheses. If these wouldn't have happened, how the world would look like, you know, to imagine these alternative realities. To have wonder walls, spaces in the classroom where students can post their questions, inquiry journals, and to use real world materials that spark genuine interest like the ones we saw. And to create this safe environment, no, like just through our growth mindset mentality, where students know that mistakes are part of the learning process. And if you are not making mistakes, then maybe you're not learning, right?
No, yeah, I think that's probably one of the most important things actually, is making mistakes. I think
Yeah,
we're
even
so
celebrate,
it's so important in the learning process. So
right? And to even celebrating them and making a point of them in the class, it's very valuable to, not like as teachers, we can model whenever we make a mistake and ask like, what can we learn from this, right?
exactly.
So yeah, one strategy that we can do is to use complexity builders, which deepen our thinking. What are they? These are strategies, like strategic question frames that expand thinking, invite to have multiple perspective, to have hypothetical scenarios and connect ideas across disciplines. There's a resource that I included in the QR that has this a bit more developed. And as we've mentioned before, the advantages for us teachers is time optimization. We reduce lesson preparation time and we can focus more on student support. We have age-appropriate learning materials that supports differentiated learning, and we can also teach our students about digital literacy in a safe, guided online research experience, as we were mentioning before. So thank you for offering this type of platforms that empower us to create more meaningful and engaging and inquiry-based learning experiences.
Oh, thank you. I think teachers are like the absolute gods, so thank you all.
Thank
I really do. Yeah, I find you all very inspiring. With that in mind, I've created a little additional resource pack for everybody. As Marina mentioned earlier in the chat, we've got a free trial to the PebbleGo suite for you all until May 15th this year. So you've got a good chance to sort of integrate it into your schools and see if it works for you. Including that as like an example of lesson plans and subject maps. So that's just what articles are included in which modules. We've got some great testimonials and some really good white papers in there as well that I definitely would advise you all to dive into and have a read of. Some of the things that some schools that we've got going across the world is just really inspiring. And then also, you know, pricing, but I'll leave that up to Marina to have a chat to you about if you get in touch with her. And then also we've got an IB PYP brochure and an order form in there as well. So as I mentioned, we do also printed books, ebooks, and we've got really curated content where it's all aligned to the transdisciplinary themes. So I would advise you to have a little look. And then this is just a bit more information on Marina. So Marina, did you want to say anything?
Oh, yes. First, I want to thank you, Pilar, for such valuable information that you could share with us, and for Natalie for helping us to organize everything and for demonstrating PebbleGo so well. And actually, as Pilar was talking, I was seeing very deeply how it connects to PebbleGo, to that kind of resource. And we at EPC, we look for those kinds of resources that will engage students in such a way that exactly they will follow on to the learning process that they need. Materials that arouse curiosity. And Capstone has all this. Capstone is one of our partners at EPC. So we provide their resources to the schools. And I'll be happy to talk to you if you'd like. You can scan the QR code there on the page. You'll be given directly to my email. So you can write me a note, ask me questions, as well as to Natalie about PebbleGo. And we'll be happy to organize a trial for you. And thanks everyone again for participating. And I hope the information was useful to you. And we hope to talk to you soon. So please reach out.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Marina. And that really brings us to the end of the webinar. So I hope you found it really useful and beneficial. I know I've definitely learned some things. If you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them for you in the last couple of minutes that we've got of the hour. Otherwise, do reach out to Marina and she can help out with any questions that you might have in the coming days.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. As a guide in this conversation. It really honors me, and I just want to offer everybody's effort for the benefit of all of our students and all the children that interact with us as teachers. Thank you for the effort of being here. Thank you, Nat. Thank you, Marina. Thank you, all the attendees. I hope it was useful. Thank you, William. Thank you, everybody.